We are given the graph of a function y equals to log base bx passing through point 9 and 2. Okay? And then they say the first question, they want us to show that the b is 3. Okay, perfect. So here we have this, ladies and gents. We have basically, remember we said base is the base from the exponent, from the logarithms video. Then the exponent is the answer equals to x. So the base on the log will be the base of the equation. Then the answer on the log will be your exponent, because we said a log is the exponent represented in another form. So always when I have a log, I'm going to write it in exponential form because it's easier to work with equations when they're in exponential form than when they're in log form. Okay, now I can easily solve for b here. This is not 6, it's a b. This is my x, that's my y. So I have b to the power 2 equals to 9, right? Then I have b equals to square root of 9. Because the graph is increasing, I'm going to basically not put plus minus there. I'm going to show that, remember, b must always be bigger than 0. This part, the base can be negative, it can be 1. B can also be 1. You must remember this, guys. Perfect. So our b equals to 3 in this case. If someone argues, why didn't you put a plus minus? We refer them there. Right. Perfect. So we have proved that b is 3. Therefore, we can conclude that our graph is basically y equals to log 3x. Obviously, x must be bigger than 0. X on the log form cannot be 0, cannot be negative. And that is basically your domain. If you check on the graph, you can also see that the x equals to 0 is this line, is the y-axis. And then the graph is just starting just after x equals to 0, starting there, going here. So the graph exists for x is bigger than 0. Okay, perfect. And then they want us to determine the value of a if this lies on f. Okay, so I can see that my y is -1. So I see why I'm going to put -1 there, right? Make this bigger. Sure. So -1 equals to log base 3. I can see that my x is a there. So where there's x, I put a, right? And then this, we're going to represent it in an exponential form now. Remember, 3 is the base. The answer is the exponent. And then this is your answer here. And then you have 1/3 equals to a, basically. Remember, if the exponent is negative, if you take it down to become the denominator, the exponent changes to positive. So our value of a is that. Okay. And then they say, write down the equation of f if it's shifted 2 units down. Remember, f of x is basically log base 3x. And then we're shifting it 2 units down. Remember, 2 units down, we're going to minus the 2 on the function, basically. Down we minus, up we add. To the left, we add. To the right, we subtract. You must know this thing. Up we add, we minus down. To the right, we minus. To the left, we add. Okay. Then let's check the next part. They want us to write down the new equation of f if f is shifted 1 unit to the right. Okay, so you're gonna have log base 3. Remember, to the right you subtract. I said to the right we subtract. Okay, this is to the left, we add, and then here we're going to, sorry about that, here we're going to subtract, which is to the right. Ne? You subtract on x because left and right are on the x-axis, ne? And then up and down are on the y-axis. So this is your new function. Now let's go to the next video. The next part of this video. So they say given g of x. So this is what we're given. We're given that g of x equals to -1 plus square root x. Then we can see that here x must be bigger or equals to 0 because we cannot have a negative inside the square root. So x can be 0 or it has to be positive. Ne? So sometimes they won't show you the restrictions. You have to see them for yourself. They want us to determine the inverse of this graph. Ne? So the inverse, I'm going to put 2 dots. Wherever there's an x, I put an y. Wherever there's an y, I put an x. So this is a y, I'm going to put x. Then we have equals to -1 plus square root of y. This changes to y, so y is bigger than or equals to 0. All right. Then we're going to solve that now. So let's see. We have basically, let's see. So we have this now. We have x, we take 1 that side, plus 1 equals to square root of y, right? We want to isolate y, remember. We want to make y the subject of the formula. So to remove the square root here, I'm going to square both sides. Then I have x plus 1 squared equals to y. Therefore, I can conclude that the inverse of g is basically x plus 1 squared. I can write this as a function notation because this is a parabola, which is many to 1, which is a function. So it can be represented in the function notation. Okay. And then what is the next question saying? They want us to draw the graph of the inverse. Ne? Remember, the inverse is this parabola here, right? Sharp. Okay, so for the inverse, I basically need, okay, let's do this. I'll show you the table again here. So the inverse is g there, right? Then this side will get g of x. Ne? Sharp. We need the turning point. You need the y-intercept. You need the x-intercept. Ne? To sketch a parabola, you need these 3 things. Okay. We can see that, okay, the turning point, remember this is already in the turning point form, right? If you haven't watched our videos on the playlists, you'll have to, so that you can understand how we get the turning point. But the turning point form, basically this number here switches, and then since outside is +0, it means your y on the turning point is 0. Ne? So remember, we flipped x and y. So here the turning point will be 0 and -1. Okay, then remember for y-intercept, we make x 0. Ne? So we're looking for, the answer is 1. So when x is 0, the y value is 1 for the inverse. Ne? So here, when x is 0, y is 1, which means it's going to become your x, your y-intercept becomes your x, because when you flip, this is what happens. Ne? This is what happens. So 1 and 0. And ladies and gents, you can see that, okay, when the turning point, x value is 0, basically. The y value is 0. Do you see it? So the y being 0, it means that is your x-intercept. Ne? That is your x-intercept as well. And also here, the x is 0, it means it's going to be your y-intercept as well. Sharp. Now we can sketch these 2 graphs. Let's quickly sketch them here. So We have this. We have that. Remember, you always need to show your axis of symmetry line first. That is the first thing you show before you even sketch. It's y equals to x. So basically, to get those points, remember, I can say 1, 2, 3. I'll show you how to get the points for the axis of symmetry. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. This is my y-axis. Then this is my x-axis. Sharp. 1 and 1 is there. You see? Then 1, 2, 3. Remember, when x is 1, y will be 1 because y equals to x. So you get these 2 points and then you do dotted lines like that. Then you always show that that is line y equals to x. Okay, now let's sketch the inverse. The inverse, we have -1 and 0. So -1 and 0 will be here. Right, and then we have 0 and 1, which is there. And then we can see that this is our parabola looking like this. Perfect. And then we can now see that, okay, this guy will be 0 and -1, which is there. Then we have 1 and 0, which is there. And then this gives you this part of the graph. You can see that it's reflected nicely along line y equals to x. Okay. Now I have sketched both the graphs. Let's see what question am I left with. They say, is the inverse a function? Oh, the other mistake I made, gents, I didn't show which one is my. Remember, this one is my inverse, right? This one is my inverse. And then this one is my g of x. You need to show them as well. Then the question is asking, is the inverse a function? You are going to say yes. You're going to say yes, it is a function, because if you were to draw a vertical line here on top of the inverse, let's see. If we were to do a vertical line on top of the inverse, we can see that the vertical line always just cuts the graph only once. Look at the inverse only, don't look at the g of x. On the inverse, it cuts only once at any 2 given points. So it passes the vertical line test. So you're going to say, because it passes the vertical line test. Perfect. And then let's check the next question. They want us to determine the domain and range of the inverse, okay? The domain, remember the domain, you look on the x-axis. Let me get a ruler so that it's easier to do this. So the first point is here. So we're starting from here, and then we're going there. Do you see it? We start here, we go there, basically, to infinity. So our domain will be x is bigger than or equals to -1. This is the what? The domain of the inverse. And then the y value here is 0. We move from 0, we go up. You see? We move from 0, we go up. So the range will be y is bigger or equals to 0 of the inverse. That's your range for the inverse. And that's it about that question. So now let's go to the next one. Okay, on this question, they want us to determine the equation of f if they give us the inverse. So this is the inverse of f. Okay, sharp. And then they want us to give the equation of f in turning point form. Remember the turning point form, it's y is equals to ax plus p squared plus q, right? And then we can see, okay, now we're doing basically f of x, right? Remember this, they said, is the inverse of f of x. So the points are going to flip around when I take them to f of x. the first point is going to be 0 and 1. You can see that that is your y end now because the x value is 0, right? The turning point of the function is just the flipped turning point of that one, which is 1 and 3. Yeah? Once we have that, we can easily find the equation. Let's see. We are going to have y equals to a x. Remember the x value switches, so if it's positive, it becomes minus 1 squared plus 3. Right. And then to get a, we need to substitute a point. So we're going to substitute x0 and y1. So y is 1, a, the x is 0, minus 1 squared plus 3. And then I'm going to take the 3 that side. So I'm going to have 1 minus 3 equals to a, because this guy here will give you 1. Okay, let me just show that. And then negative 2 equals to a. Therefore, y is equals to negative 2 x minus 1 squared plus 3. That is the equation of the f of x. So you can easily say f of x here rather. F of x equals to that. Ne? Sharp. Then will the graph have a maximum or a minimum? Remember, a is less than 0, which is negative 2. So it means the graph is facing down, which means this is the highest possible y value, right? So it's going to have a maximum value. Sharp. Then they say state the domain range and axis of symmetry of f. Okay. Remember, f is a parabola. It's a normal parabola in the turning point form. So the domain will be x elements real. That is your domain. Right, now the range. Remember the range on the parabola, you're interested in the y in the turning point. The y in the turning point is 3. And the graph is facing down. So y will be less than or equals to 3. If the parabola was facing up, you're going to say y is bigger or equals to 3. And then the domain range, axis of symmetry, ladies and gents, is just the x value on the TP. Ne? The x value on the TP cuts the graph into 2 equal parts. So in this case, x equals to 1. Remember, the x value on the TP of the parabola was 1. So always, if the question says the axis of symmetry of a function, and that function is a parabola, they are indirectly asking you for the x value on the turning point. Okay, perfect. Then, ladies and gents, we're done with these questions, but I just drew this inverse and the f of x to show you that they are actually, this equation we found here is indeed true. Ne? Let me show you. So on Desmos, you can see that 3 and 1 will become now 1 and 3. It flipped there, you see? Then this point, which is 1 and 0, will flip to become 0 and 1. All right. Then this point here, which is 1 and 2, will flip to become what? 2 and 1, basically. Just that I'm not getting the exact one there, you see? 2 and 1. Perfect. And then they shown our axis of symmetry line there, or line y equals to x. You see it? And yeah, that's pretty much about functions. We're done with the syllabus for functions now from grade 11 to 12. If you have watched our videos from the beginning up until now, I'm sure you should be mastering this section. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Please don't forget to share, subscribe, and watch more fire content that is coming. Thank you very much. Tango.